a website masterclass inside the entrepreneur group. I'm Maurice Davis, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how you go about um, picking your hosting. And we talked a little bit about in the terminology lesson what hosting was. We'll do kind of a refresher on that. Um, Let me get this updated really quick. It's not the window that I want. Okay, there we go. And so in this video, we're going to get into the elements of hosting, what it is, some more detail. There we go. That's the right side. Uh, like in other videos, if you know someone that you think this can be a benefit to, friend, family member, colleague, another business owner, please share this with them. The goal of this course is really to make sure that you're empowered to take control of building your own website. Um, I have worked with far too many business owners that feel like they're being held back because they don't know how to do some of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you in this course. Um, and the more that we can get people the freedom to build their own websites, the more ability we have to help those that want to start businesses but feel like they don't have the money to be able to do that more easily. All right. Let's see here. So, what is hosting? Just kind of a refresher. It's the rent that you pay for being online. It's the costs that you will need to pay in order to have your own space on the internet. I have worked with several folks that are like, "Well, is there a way to do it free?" The short answer is yes, but it's usually not very good. And we'll talk about why that is. So just know that you're going to have some sort of cost associated with having this website, regardless of who you go with, right? And I'm going to share with you what I mean by who you go with here later on. But just know that regardless of the companies you pick, the platform you pick, we talked about platform in the last video, the builders you pick, you're going to have a cost associated with it. Where you start getting into what's affordable, what's not affordable is some of this stuff that we're going to be talking about in here and really determining what makes the most sense for us. Okay. All right. So types of website hosting. This stuff is important. Please do not skip it. It is starting to get a little more technical, but I want you to understand the different types. When I first started on my journey of like building websites, I didn't even know there was a difference until I had a colleague of mine educate me on the differences, the value of the different kind, and now I can pick a type of hosting and recognize the pros and cons of each, and that's what I'm hoping that I'll be able to get share with you by the end of this video. So it's important that we understand not all hosting is created equal. Just because a website is up doesn't mean that it is. Just because two websites go up doesn't mean that they will perform the same. And performance, when we start talking about like website stuff, plays a big role in the website's success. It plays a big role in the website's ranking. And so, if your website is not performing well, there are a lot of elements that go into whether it performs well. But one of the big ones that the only control that you have is like who it's hosted through, right? Some hosts are just bad. And I'll share with you the one that I recommend. And if you choose to pick a different one, by all means, go for it. And most of the time, I try to give options, but I've learned that I can't do that. Right? I'm not giving options. This is the one that I use. You're welcome to try any of them that you want. Um, Most of the mechanisms are the same. All right, so the first kind is shared hosting. And this is where multiple websites share the same server resources. And you could say that, like, when we talk about server resources, what we're saying is the um, kind of the land that your space sits on. And so if you think about it like this, uh, If you are on a shared hosting, you got a bunch of people in the same space and you're all trying to share that same space. If you're familiar with the concept, it's kind of like co-working. If you have a desk or if you like rent co-working and you only pay to be able to drop in and get access to a table, and there are 100 people that have that same plan, you're sharing that table with 100 people. Here's some of the pros, right? It's cost effective as heck. This is where oftentimes you see hosting that is really, really inexpensive. Um, it is really easy to use for new people. And a lot of that has to do with like because you don't have as much access to tools and resources, you really only have the ability to do limited stuff. Okay. Here's the cons. So limited resources, and then potentially slower. The site itself is slower. I'm going to hold off on explaining what I mean by limited resources because later on in the video, I'm going to start sharing some like considerations for picking a hosting company. And when I start talking about those considerations, some of these resources will be included in that. The next one is a VPS or virtual private server. So this is kind of the next step up. So this kind of mimics what it's like to have your own server. So let's think about let's stay with the co-working analogy. If shared hosting is everybody shares a table, well, this VPS is you have your own desk in the shared space, right? So it's a little more private. You have more control, right? You can decorate your desk, you can put stuff out. You can access it whenever you want, so the resources are readily available. And probably, it's a little bit better for you as like your ability to be able to manage your day. So the performance is better. Here's the downside. It costs more money, right? No one else can use that desk. And so the person that owns the co-working space has to charge you more money. When we start talking about like this for a hosting thing, sometimes it requires a little more technical know-how. You need a little more skill in order to run a virtual private server in some cases. Okay. All right. The next one is dedicated hosting. So this is you like renting the entire server, right? And again, keeping with our co-working space, this is kind of like you rented an office, right? You control what you can put up. You control who can come in the office and not come in the office. So it's really secure. Best probably one of the better performing ways to go about like having your own website. Here's the downside. It's expensive. It's expensive. Um, Compared to any of the others, you're going to spend way more money on a dedicated hosting. It requires some technical experience. You have to really understand that server side, what the back end, right? So if you remember in terminology, I talked about front end, back end. You need to understand the back end stuff and how it all works. And if something breaks, it's on you. There is no there is there is no tech support. You are tech support, right? Now here's the thing: to you can hire people to do the technical stuff, but that's additional cost. Okay. Then you have managed hosting. So this is where you essentially have a server that you're on, or a virtual server that you're on, and your hosting provider manages that server and all the technical stuff. So remember, I said you can hire someone. This is essentially that. Okay. So here's the pros here. It's convenient. You get the higher performance, right? It's kind of like you got an office and it came with an assistant. Okay. Here's the downside. Um, it's more expensive, and because someone else is managing it for you and they have like a contract, you don't have nearly as much control of what happens inside that server. Okay. All right. Let's get into some key features to look for in your host provider. So you really want to find out like what's their uptime, right? And when we say uptime, it's like how often does their stuff go out? When or how in a given month, how much time is your site going to be up? Okay. Um, this is important. You don't want to go with a host provider, even if they're cheap, and it's like the uptime's 50%. That's like you're playing roulette with the site. You might as well not have it, right? So just be mindful that like knowing what the uptime is kind of important. Speed and performance. Again, this as far as like how fast it loads, how easy it is for people to access, plays a role in your success around like you getting. It plays a role in your like rankings online. Okay, sorry, said something come up. Then we have customer support. So this is how likely is it or the availability of some sort of like technical support. Some places do really well with this, others do not. Again, I'm going to share with you the company that I recommend, and part of the reason why I use them is the like customer support, the availability of like talking to a person. I really like that. Then we have security features. For me, I don't want to pay for some of this stuff, so I don't I believe that this should be included. So that's something that I look for is a hosting provider that has this stuff included. Then we have scalability, so your ability to upgrade your hosting plan. Listen, I don't want to go with anyone that the plans that they have don't allow me to grow, because what that means is I'll have to move everything, and some of that stuff's a pain to move, and then now you're paying a fee to migrate stuff. You don't want that, right? So just know this is something that you want to be mindful of. User friendly control panel. The control panel allows you to access stuff when you're trying to manage your hosting. um, as time has progressed, if you have something like a shared server, you won't have a control panel. If you have something that is kind of a in between, right, you may have a control panel or like a control panel light, and the hosting provider that I like, they have a control panel light. It gives you the tools and flexibility of a control panel, but it's got a standard like web interface. It was hard for me in the beginning to like wrap my mind around it, but as I've used it, I actually prefer it over the total flexibility of a control panel. I'm not super on this like back end stuff. That's not where I play. So I don't need the total access that some of my colleagues that like they are all about backside server stuff. That's their jam. And so as we get into it, talking about choosing the right platform, some of that stuff is what you're going to be considering. I didn't include this in the slide, but like one thing that you want to consider when choosing the right platform is like your level of technical acumen. So if you are highly technical, you know a ton about like server side, back end stuff, and that's where you want to jam out. Not probably you won't be watching this video or the you wouldn't be watching this course. But if by some chance you are, that should be a consideration. Um, and vice versa, if you're not, then you need to make sure that the hosting that you pick is really going to allow the fact that you don't have that technical skill not to hinder your ability to be able to put websites up, make changes. Okay. So here's where we get into really like assessing your needs. We want to determine the website's traffic, storage, and any like special features that we need. Part of hosting is oftentimes dictated around traffic and storage. So if you're going to have a ton of traffic, or maybe you're going to have like a ton of images, ton of video, then you need to make sure that you're picking a hosting plan that aligns with that. Okay. The next one is budget. As much as I have my preferences of what I like to do, if your budget doesn't allow for that, then you need to pick someone different. And again, I will share with you my preferred hosting provider here in just a minute, and kind of talk about why I like them and everything else. Then we have like future growth, and I shared this before. A I don't want to use a hosting provider that I can't grow with them, right? That's a huge no for me. And in my opinion, should be a huge no for you. All right. So we've gone through all the elements on the slides. Let me get this pulled up. So I'm gonna drop um, the I'm gonna drop the video or the here we go. All right. So this is who I recommend. They're called SiteGround, and I've been using them for a couple of years now. I've used several other platforms before, some that were really inexpensive, downright dirt cheap, to be honest, and some that were a little bit on the more expensive side. And I've landed that this is kind of in the middle. I've had some that require a lot more technical skill, and all of them have taught me different things. So I'm glad that I had a chance to do those, but I like this one because it gives me the ability to do what I need to do without feeling like I have to be a super genius on the like coding and stuff on the back end. So let's let's jump in here, and I just want to show you some of the elements right here. So again, I you choose what you want, but their Trustpilot reviews really well. WP Beginner, you may not be familiar, but WP Beginner is a website that like does like WordPress reviews, WordPress tutorials, and so they're really highly rated there. And then the thing that I love a lot about them is like what's included. Okay. So you come down here and you can, for the first year, get you the startup plan, one website, 10 GB web space, which is actually a pretty decent size, pretty decent size site. And then up to 10,000 monthly views. So here's the thing. If if you have a site that is bigger than this and you're getting more traffic than this, then you can afford to go up to another plan. Okay. So that's my 2 cent here. Is that this is really about picking what works for you, but any of these plans are solid. Okay. Let me scroll down here. I'm actually on this plan here, right? Go Geek. Uh, I like the I like the benefits that come with it. Okay. So as you look at this, you can kind of take a look, but some of the stuff that is not in here, that I thought was that I think is top notch. Actually, it is on here. Daily backups. This has saved me a ton of time. Free SSL, free CDN or content distribution networks. You can get emails, create your own emails, and you don't have to pay to have emails. So these are things that, like, if you've never experienced a hosting provider, you may not even realize that, like, these are actually really cool. These are really cool features. But just know that they are really cool features. Um, let's see here. Those are kind of the primary things that I really love about them. And kind of like, all right, this is why I prefer them versus something else. So that's all I got for you. If you want access to this, down below, you can this link. I've added this link to um, the community where you can jump in there and you can get this discount that they have on the first year. Feel free to take advantage of it and give them a try for a year. Right? Do the startup plan or the grow big plan, and if you like them, then you keep them. If you don't, then you can find something else. But for $5, you're talking $60 for the year. You're gonna have a solid hosting plan. That if you're going along with this course with me, I can help you with it. I can show you how to build the site. I can do those things for you. And if it becomes something that like, hey, I really need you to jump in and do something for me. I can support that inside the community. So that's all I got for you. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please consider sharing this course with someone else. Again, the objective is to share what I've learned over the decade plus in marketing with entrepreneurs, freelancers, professionals that need to be freed and have the capacity to make their own site and manage their own site, so that you can start the business that you've been wanting to start, do the projects that you've been wanting to do, right? Any of that stuff that comes with like the freedom of doing a website. And honestly, I'll share this with you, and this is kind of a side note. I have made a good amount of money doing websites, um, several five figures, right? And it's not my primary thing. Okay, so I don't share that number to like, oh, I make a lot of money, but I share it to say it's not my primary thing. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't um I didn't spend a bunch of money on courses to learn it. I've learned it over time using videos like mine, and have leveraged my skills, videos like mine and communities like the one that I'm sharing, and I've leveraged my skills in order to make some additional money. And so, even if you're like, well, I don't know if I want to build a site for myself, you may find that you can build sites for other people and make a little bread on the side. And if that's what happens, great. If not, that's cool too. So that's all I got for you. I'm gonna get off here. I appreciate you. Outside of that, stay out here, one of y'all.